Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, Text 8, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Tasya twang tamasondhasya dushparasyadya paragam satchakshur janmanamante labdhang me tvad anugrahat. Devahuti speaking to Kapila Dev. Your Lordship is my only means of getting out of this darkest region of ignorance, because you are my transcendental I, which by your mercy only I have attained after many, many births. I'll read it again, please listen carefully. Your Lordship is my only means of getting out of this darkest region of ignorance, because you are my transcendental I, which by your mercy only I have attained after many, many births. Purport. This verse is very instructive, since it indicates the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple. The disciple or conditioned soul is put into this darkest region of ignorance and therefore is entangled in the material existence of sense gratification. It is very difficult to get out of this entanglement and attain freedom, but if one is fortunate enough to get the association of a spiritual master like Kapila Muni or his representative, then by his grace one can be delivered from the mire of ignorance. That's Maya, M-I-R-E, which is an English word which means filth. From the maya of ignorance. The spiritual master is therefore worshipped as one who delivers the disciple from the maya of ignorance with the light of the torch of knowledge. The word paragam is very significant. Paragam refers to one who can take the disciple to the other side. This side is conditioned life, the other side is the life of freedom. The spiritual master takes the disciple to the other side by opening his eyes with knowledge. We are suffering simply because of ignorance. By the instruction of the spiritual master, the darkness of ignorance is removed, and thus the disciple is enabled to go to the side of freedom. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that after many, many births, one surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, if after many, many births one is able to find a bona fide spiritual master and surrender to such a bona fide representative of Krishna, one can be taken to the side of light. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Nilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Shrishtam Manumapi Shachiputram Atra Surupam Rupam Tasyagajam Urupurim Aturim Goshtavartim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhava Shamprapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Shri Guru Paramananda Premananda Palaprada Rajananda Pradananda Sevayang Ma Niyojaya He Guru Gyanada Dinabandho Swananda Data Karunaika Sindho Vrindavana Sina Hitavatara Prasida Radha Pranaya Prachara Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Ataf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagriyatam Sahagarna Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan Tina smarane hoy bigna binashan anayashe hoy nijavanchita puran. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Madgavirapi Gopala Sri Kuryat. Kripaya yadi tadaiva sam paya pitva rishyeyush tatpraya janaha. Why are you here? What will you answer if I say, why are you here? It might be a bit difficult to answer because you don't know what exactly referring to as here. Why are you here? I mean, why are you here in the material world? Because I'm a rascal. That's one answer. Why are you here in Tirupati? Because the program was arranged here. Why are you here? One reason you're all gathered here, almost all of you, because you've accepted me as your spiritual master, which is the word or the phrase which Srila Prabhupada always used to translate the word guru. Nowadays we often hear of spiritual guides. Devotees feel constrained, or for whatever reason they refer to their spiritual guide. Guide means, yeah, you can take it if you like, but you don't have to. Just like in the GBC, they have GBC laws and they have guidelines. Guidelines means you don't have to follow it if you don't want to. That's true of the laws also, but the guidelines they're not supposed to be obligatory. So devotees refer to their spiritual guide. It's quite common in the Western countries now, in the English-speaking world at least, to refer to a spiritual guide, which indicates somewhat temerity, cautiousness, or fear in stating that I have a spiritual master to the faithless population, or maybe because one doesn't want to accept a spiritual master, but a guide. In the Western world, it's very prominent, this idea of independence and freedom, do what you want. Extremely foolish idea, but deeply ingrained in the psyche that we should be independent. Although no one's independent in any way. We're all dependent. At least if we're living in society, we're all interdependent. And even if you go to the forest and run away from society, we're still dependent on the grace of the Supreme Lord to maintain us. But it's considered horrible that one human being can accept someone else as an authority to the point that they call a spiritual master. Accept authority, yeah, okay, if you're in an office you have to do what your boss tells you. In the army you have to do, but the idea is there that everyone should be as free as possible to do whatever they like, which is resulting in this extremely sick, chronically sick social condition in the world. Lack of spiritual knowledge, ajnana, timirandha, the blindness of ignorance, leads us individually on the hellish path and the whole society. the whole worldly society, and if we as a supposed to be spiritual society want to import the foolish, demoniac ideas of the completely misdirected civilization, then we also become completely misdirected. My approach, because I am your spiritual master, so I'm just clarifying if you didn't know, that my approach to preaching and guruship is often seen as different to much of what is prevalent in ISKCON today. This morning I had the misfortune to see a clip of a young, looked like Indian woman dancing on a stage in Mayapur, imitating some very, even by Western standards, very low-class kind of music and dancing, and this was in Mayapur at ISKCON, and it was called Bhagavad Gita Mela. So I just felt, I felt betrayed that what Srila Prabhupada came for and what we're working for, and in the West, if our devotees are so foolish and low class, well, it's not understandable even there, but in India and in Mayapur, Hare Krishna. So, I want to inform you again that I don't go along with so many other things which are considered normal and acceptable and proper in the Vaishnava world today. I was informed that I am perceived by many as being proud. I don't say that my approach to Krishna consciousness is the only one, it's the only one which is right, it's the only one which is proper, it's best accepted, that there are various ways and approaches in which we can practice and preach Krishna consciousness. But within, it's not unlimited, Joto mot doto pot, do as you like. There are parameters. The parameters are called the instructions of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So there are different approaches, but I cannot imagine that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who had the vision of devotees from all over the world coming to Mayapur, would be very happy seeing such a thing that I had the misfortune to see this morning. So maybe that's proud. All of our acharyas could be considered proud. It doesn't mean that I'm on the level of the previous acharyas, and it doesn't mean that I'm free from the fault of pride, but to say that someone who takes the position that what is given by our gurus and by Shastra and by Krishna is correct, and everything else is wrong, that is the position of our acharyas. Etaj jnanam iti proktam, ajnanam yad anyata. Krishna says, listing the symptoms of someone who has attained knowledge, that this is knowledge and everything else is simply ignorance. I've discussed this in my book on speaking strongly in Srila Prabhupada's service, which I wrote maybe more than 10 years ago, and it was late at that time. That there are pros and cons of various approaches, but the approach given by our acharyas is to straightforwardly state what is in Shastra. There may be some sugar coating on the pill, but the medicine or the content of the pill has to be there. There has to be the substantial content of spiritual knowledge. Imparting that is the qualification of a guru. Otherwise, you're not a guru. You might be a clown or an entertainer, but you're not a guru. You might be popular. I try to speak philosophy as I've understood it from Srila Prabhupada to impress on others that this world is miserable. Human life is meant for God realization. We should give up sense gratification, recognizing that there is the Supreme Controller, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His name is Krishna, and we should surrender to Him. That, in a nutshell, is what we learned from Srila Prabhupada, and that is what we should present. We are enjoined by our Sampradaya Acharya. We are Rupa Anugas, so we're supposed to be following Rupa Goswami, who says Sadhu Marganugamanam. We should follow the path given by the previous acharyas. That means we should not promote, for instance, bodily welfare as if it's something spiritual. There's nothing wrong, it should be done. There should be arrangements for the bodily welfare of the devotees up to a certain extent. But there is a certain Swami who was very influential up to the present day, who lacked any true spiritual vivek. I won't say his name, but he promoted bodily welfare work as being Vedanta. This is Vedanta. So this has become confused in the Hindu psyche with a dollop of ignorance from the Christian side, also reinforced in recent times by a certain so-called mother who was from Calcutta, who, when I lived in Calcutta, no one gave a damn about her, but then she became promoted by the Western media as being a great welfare worker. So this idea that spirituality means helping people to have their body fit enough to enjoy sense gratification, this is spiritual life. So I'm opposed to that. It may sound proud, but I'm opposed to our Vaishnav institutions promoting bodily welfare, social welfare, mundane welfare work without clearly discriminating, without making it very clear that this is not our message, this is not our purpose, this is an ancillary, and our real duty or our business is to inform people that we are in the blazing fire of material existence, and this human body has usefulness if it's engaged in self-realization. Otherwise, to make the body better or to open schools for educating people to become useful fools in the demoniac civilization, we should not be partaking in this. Bodily welfare, career advancement, mundane psychology, hospitals, government curriculum, schools. I've said it many times. I'm saying it again. My approach is considered very strict. Well, we should be strict. Otherwise, what's the meaning of being a disciple? Disciple means discipline. Shishya means shashan. Anushashan means discipline. strict. We're trying to follow the process given by Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas, and to bring in the culture of the spiritual world, which is why I'm also opposed to jeans, and even in our gatherings, salwar kameez. Why don't the women can wear saris? Like one prominent, supposed to be leader in our movement, insists that there are no dhotis or saris in the spiritual world, although from Srila Prabhupada and Rupa Goswami we can understand there very certainly are. So we should adopt this culture. We can't adopt it fully, but Srila Prabhupada wanted to see his followers, he was happy to see them adopting the Vedic Vaishnav culture as far as possible. Jeans means we identify with this demoniac, extremely low-class culture. So if you like to wear such things, please don't do so in this gathering, at least. So this is very strict. You may say, well, why don't we just welcome everyone to come and chant Hare Krishna? Refer to what I spoke this morning. Yes, everyone can come and chant Hare Krishna. But if we're going to connect with Krishna, we have to do so by taking initiation, which means taking the discipline, surrendering. So yeah, just everything okay, do what you like, chant Hare Krishna. That's good for people who are not chanting Hare Krishna, but we're supposed to go further than that. Saying such things by myself, it often causes some tension because some devotees don't like it. That is the test. That is the test of what we should do. Do we like it or not? There was one book released some years ago called Nityananda Charitamrita. It was released in English. I first saw it in the 1970s on a bookshelf in Jayapataka Maharaj's library, Bengali version. And I saw it and I said, oh, what's that? That looks interesting. Nityananda Charitamrita by Vrindavan Das Thakur. And Jayapataka Maharaj said, it's bogus. I didn't take any interest in it till it got published in English, maybe 40 years later or something. And I tried to convince the author that it's bogus, but his repeated... Bogus means most of it is from Chaitanya Bhagavat, but there are a few chapters added by Nityananda Vangsha Gosais to uphold their particular Apasiddhanta. So his repeated justification for publishing this, and he didn't seem to understand what was wrong with his logic. Devotees like it. Well, does Krishna like it? Is it approved by our acharyas? From my side, I see that many standards given by Srila Prabhupada are being compromised. The idea is to bring many people in. If we're very strict in the beginning, then many people may get turned off. And there is justification for such an approach, and Srila Prabhupada himself often quoted that. Yena tena prakarena mana Krishna nishevayet. Somehow or other bring people into Krishna consciousness. But that's not the end of it. Somehow bring people to Krishna consciousness, get them to somehow or other come, but then we have to teach them and train them if they're going to go up. If you tell devotees just relax, don't be strict about the rules, then we won't go up. Because for going back to Godhead is required tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Intense, application to the process of devotional service, if we, whoops, where am I going here? Oh. Not in the proper order. It's not been printed in the proper order. Everything, unless we do things in the proper order, then things get confusing. So if we say, meditate on the gopis dancing in the beginning, without going through the stages of anartha nivritti, it's not in the proper order, and things get confusing. So if we tell devotees that it's okay to eat karmi food, it's okay. It's fine. Go to karmi restaurants, watch karmi movies. Or even more merciful, it's called mercy, telling devotees that they don't have to follow the rules. I don't understand why it's called mercy, but I would think that mercy would be to tell them not to do these things. But the mercy has become so merciful, more merciful than all the previous acharyas. It's telling actually you should eat karmi food. Don't, because if you only take prasadam, then I don't know what the justification is, but anyway, take your family out for some mundane entertainment and so on and so on. We shouldn't talk nonsense. But somehow or other it's okay. If we're in ISKCON, it's okay to talk nonsense. If you're a YouTube preacher and you talk all nonsense, it's okay because you have tilak on and you have some name. Or maybe you don't have tilak on. That's also because we don't want to turn people off by wearing tilak. So talking nonsense is okay if it's done by an ISKCON preacher. Somehow or other it becomes okay. And eating karmi food is okay if it's in an ISKCON restaurant. You can buy karmi bread and sell it in the ISKCON restaurant because it's an ISKCON restaurant and we have a deity there who no one even looks at. And we have karmi cooks and it's all okay because it's ISKCON. But just because it's got the name ISKCON doesn't make it bona fide. ISKCON is bona fide if we follow what Prabhupada says, and it's not round the other way, that because we put the sign ISKCON it becomes bona fide. So I oppose these things. I'm very proud, I'm told, to say like this. We can ask people to chant Hare Krishna, and they may do it more easily if we don't give restrictions. But devotees won't be able to make proper advancement. We may have many people chanting Hare Krishna. By the influence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, many people in Bengal and Orissa chant Hare Krishna. But our acharyas, especially beginning with Bhaktivinoda Thakur and intensely so with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, were opposed to much of what was going on in the name of Vaishnavism. Because it was Rupanuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta. It was not according to the proper line given by Rupa Goswami. And therefore, even though many people identified themselves as Vaishnavas or Tilak and chanted the holy names, they weren't able to make proper advancement due to various misconceptions, malpractices. If you give a very valuable thing to a person at a very cheap price, they won't respect it. This great gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we say, well, you just do it as you like, when you like, if you like, how you like. Then who is going to take that seriously? And we have to take it seriously if we're going to advance. If we don't give restrictions, then why should anyone take it very seriously? if we give something very valuable to someone who doesn't know the value of it, then they won't maintain it. You may have sometimes that happens. Someone has some valuable gem and they just think they have it in their ancestral property, their grandmother gave them, and they just think it's some cheap glass. And then they discover after a few generations it's a priceless gem. But they didn't know. So even people may be chanting Hare Krishna, but unless we explain to them what is the value of this, and what is the difficulty of being in material life, why shouldn't you eat kami bread? I mean, what's the harm? It's vegetarian, probably. What's the harm? We don't see that devotees start to go insane when they're eating kami bread. They're already insane to eat it in the first place, if we take the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu seriously. But what's the problem? The problem is Bishoyer onna kaile molin hoimon. The mind becomes contaminated. You might not see it immediately. By eating the food of materialists, the mind becomes contaminated. We might not see it immediately. But the effect is, mon molin hoile nahe Krishna smaran. We won't become Krishna conscious with a contaminated mind. Therefore, it's a very dangerous thing. People may think we're insane. A loaf of bread, and we say, dangerous. It's poison. It's not poison. It's a loaf of bread. Come on. What are you? It's completely harmless. In fact, it's got lots of nutrition. It says on the label, it's got carbohydrates and added vitamins. It's very good. But we say poison, poison. Because it's not prasad. Well, we can offer it. That's it. But will Krishna accept it? Why should Krishna accept it? Well, I'm initiated and I stuck it in front of the picture and mumbled a few mantras and now it's prasadam. It borders on atheism, this kind of approach. If people are interested in Krishna consciousness, we should give them Krishna consciousness, and we should preach in such a way that they become interested in Krishna consciousness. It's just like someone, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, after millions of lifetimes, they've been tossing in the waves of material existence, being battered by the waves, suffering, suffering, suffering. And they're just now coming to the shore. They're just now getting the opportunity. And instead of facilitating them coming to the shore, coming out of material existence, we pose as a helper and throw them back in. And call it compassion. We're being very compassionate because we're not telling them how they can get out of the ocean. But we're telling them, actually, it's not so bad there, so just go back. So I see it as my duty as a guru. What are you doing being guru? What is it? You sit on a big stage and then you have garlands put on you. But what do you do? What's the duty? The duty is to, at the very least, inform devotees of the best possible standard. We should follow Arjuna, not Duryodhana. Arjuna thought, even if I get Krishna, I don't get anyone else, I want Krishna. And Duryodhana thought, I don't want Krishna, but I'll take his army, I'll get the mass support. Better than Krishna. So having many people, wanting to have many people as our criterion, that's Duryodhana's approach. But Arjuna's is, let Duryodhana have everyone. I'll take Krishna. So we have to push back against Maya, pushing. It's a pushing movement. It's not very popular today in Vaishnava society, but it's a pushing society, supposed to be, pushing for surrender, for renunciation, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught devotional service on the pillars of Vairagya and Vidya, renunciation, and knowledge. This doesn't mean the dry renunciation of the Mayavadis. But it's not that there's no renunciation. Renunciation is also required. Renunciation of wrong ideas, renunciation of wrong practices. So I'm pushing for surrender, for Varnashram, for Varnashram projects. Varnashram. You may have heard the word if you read Srila Prabhupada's books. Undoubtedly you've heard the word. I'm much criticized in some quarters for what is called my misogyny of hatred or hatred of women, because I am what is called by some fanatical, or if you want to be a little milder, conservative or traditional in the matter of the function of the female body, previously known as a woman, the function of women in society. But this is not appreciated by those who think that feminism is correct. The idea that the whole of human history is one of men oppressing women. It's probably true from one perspective, but then the whole of human history is might makes right. The whole of human history is of jivo, well, not only human, jivo jivasya jivanam. The demoniac society is one person or one group of people trying to dominate others. So that is acceptable, but the antidote is not to make any material solution, but to see what is Krishna's approach to this whole existential position in material existence. Krishna's approach is Varnashram dharma, how to regulate our misconception, how to regulate our non-Krishna consciousness in such a way that we can come to the platform of Krishna consciousness. And it can be a dilemma, this point about establishing Varnashram society within ISKCON, because Srila Prabhupada engaged his Western women disciples in many non-traditional ways. That's a fact. In preaching, book distribution, leading kirtan, sometimes. I didn't see it when I joined in 1975. It wasn't going on at that time, but earlier it was going on. So it can be a dilemma that Srila Prabhupada engaged his Western disciples, his female disciples, in very outgoing ways, not all of them, but at the same time he wanted to establish Varnashram society, which he spoke about and wrote about so much, in which there are distinct roles played between men and women. Societal roles. Spiritual roles means we all have to chant Hare Krishna. But socially there are different functions. It's not a difficult thing to understand unless we're raised in present-day society, which is deliberately trying to obfuscate, to eradicate the very obvious differences between men and women. And it makes innumerable problems. It's because it's so, well, I can just use an easy word that everyone can understand. It's so bogus. It's very easy to tell the difference between a man and a woman. You just look at part of the body which decent people don't look at. And then it becomes obvious. And then the psychology goes with the body. But that's all denied in this uber insane society. In my youth I understood society was insane, but when I look back at the 1960s and 1970s, it looks kind of sane compared to society at the present time. It's so insane. So Srila Prabhupada wanted to introduce Varnashram society for the sake of facilitating Krishna's mercy in giving Krishna consciousness. Because if people are insane at the outset, it's very difficult to give them Krishna consciousness. And insane because they're so much disturbed. The feminism has turned women against men, and then men against women, and then people don't want to get married, and if they have children, they don't like having children, and the children grow up not wanted, not trusting anyone because the mother doesn't like the father and the father doesn't like the mother, and they're all confused, and then we wonder why people go into a shopping mall with a gun and shoot people dead indiscriminately. Why? They're insane. They're just they're samples of the insane society. Srila Prabhupada very mercifully wanted to introduce Varnashram society, in which people play different roles. There are the higher sections of society, and there are the lower sections. There are the Shudras. Dare we say the word Shudra in modern India? I could probably be arrested for saying that there are Shudras. A legal case could be made against me. But it's just a fact that some people have abilities for organization, some people have abilities for intellectual and religious leadership, some people have business acumen, and some people are not fit to be leaders. They're not fit to be intellectuals. They're fit for plowing the land, labor. So that should be recognized, and society organized accordingly in such a way that everyone has their material needs fulfilled and everyone has an equal opportunity spiritually. Women assist their husbands. That's it. There's no doubt that women can do very good preaching, but the other side of it is that if they take public preaching roles, they indirectly preach against the social role that Srila Prabhupada wanted to re-establish. And then we get all the women, instead of aspiring to fulfill their social role as a wife and mother. Mother is a full-time job, as any real mother knows. Is required to bring up children that don't get a gun and go out and shoot people indiscriminately, or in other ways perform highly demoniac activities. If you can raise your child not to be a drug addict in modern India, you're doing pretty good. If the women are too busy working, so they don't have to depend on their husband, and they can buy lipstick so they can seduce someone in the office they're working with, then who's going to care about the children? There are more important things, it could be said, than speaking against feminism. And I don't do it all the time because we have to demonstrate practically also. It's not the only disease in modern society, but it is a prominent one, and one that has unfortunately been largely accepted as a template for the contemporary Vaishnava society, the leaders of our society. I'm talking about seeing this video of a young Indian woman dancing on the stage like some extremely low class, even by Western standards, singing something which might be vaguely, if you bend your imagination, connected with Krishna consciousness. The first question would have been, at least one generation ago, who are the parents who allow her to do this? And they'll protest, what do you mean, parents? You don't follow your... Who are the parents to tell their children what to do? And then again, why do you want to have children? Why do you want to have children at all when the children are trained not to follow the parents? And in some states in America, if the parents try to discipline the children at home, the children go to school and complain to the parents, and the parents get arrested. Such a bad, bad society. So we have to establish our own communities as far as possible. Live Varnashrama. We can talk about it, but who's interested? Very few followers of Srila Prabhupada are even slightly interested in following his very clear and very much stressed orders about establishing Varnashrama. Therefore, I'm taking a strong position on this, at least in relation to my disciples. You might think that being my disciple, with all this strictness, it must be very grim and miserable. But actually, what happens if you follow the process of Krishna consciousness, which includes discipline, following rules, then what happens? You become happy. Why are you coming to this? Why are you here? I opened this talk saying, why are you here? Another answer to that could be, if you keep on probing, it's a good question. Why? It's a very good question, which you can use in philosophy to probe into people's, or psychiatry, psychology, to probe into people's motives. Why? Why have you come here? Well, why do we do anything? We do things because we want to be happy. And you're coming here in the expectation of being happy, I presume. And seeing devotees dancing and singing, it appears that they're happy. So it's not that being my disciple makes you miserable. Some of them may think like that and go away and go to the bread-eating sampradaya, the kami bread sampradaya. They may do so and think that they're happy. Now I don't have to follow all these rules. I'm so happy. But we are here. Another reason that we're here, there could be so many answers given to this question, why are we here? Another reason that we're here is because we actually believe what Krishna says. And Krishna gives his happiness formula and his formula. Krishna gives instruction in Bhagavad Gita how to be happy. And he also gives instructions how to be unhappy. How to be unhappy, try to be happy on the sensual platform. As Krishna describes, Vishayendriya samyogam yattad agre mritopamam. the happiness derived from sense enjoyment, Krishna says, it's nectar. It's right there in Bhagavad Gita. I quoted it. Vishayendriya samyogam yat tad agre mritopamam. Or it seems to be like nectar in the beginning. But then what happens? Pariname vishamiva tatsukam rajasam smritam. It turns to poison. That is called happiness in the mode of passion. So it may seem like it's happiness. So we may say, well, what's wrong with eating kami bread? What's wrong? Well, you lose your... If you have any Krishna consciousness, you'll lose it. And if you're just trying to get going in Krishna consciousness, you won't. So what's the happiness formula? Krishna gives it throughout Bhagavad Gita in various ways, but in relation to following rules, disciplined life for the sake of spiritual advancement, Krishna gives his happiness formula. Yat tad agre vishamiva pariname mritopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. Krishna says that happiness in the mode of passion in the beginning might seem to be like poison. So many things you have to follow. Why aren't we making more devotees? Why are there so few initiated devotees? The answer in North India is chai, and in South India, coffee. Well, among other reasons. You have to give up drinking tea or coffee. Is that right? Right. No, wrong. So I have to give up tea or coffee. Okay, I'll give up tea and stick to the coffee. You have to give up tea and coffee. All right, okay, here's 100 rupees. Take a donation. We'll give you a book. If you read it, it'll says, give up tea and coffee. But pariname mritopamam, eventually by doing this, it becomes just like nectar, by following this process. And what do we get? Atma buddhi prasadajam. We get intelligence on the spiritual intelligence and spiritual satisfaction. So this happiness we're aiming for, again, there are so many ways it's discussed. Shreyas and prayas. Prayas, I like eating, okay, you got fed up of hearing about kami bread. Kami pizza. I like kami pizza. That gives jivasuk, happiness for the tongue. Jiva laloshe jay iti uti dhai shishnoda parayan Krishna nahi pai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warns. It's there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm not making it up. You can read it. That those who are very much concerned, who have great greed for satisfying the tongue, and they're going here and there, looking here and there at this and that, they become attached not just to the pleasure of the tongue, but to the belly and the genitals, and they don't get Krishna. So it's a matter of Atma Sukh, spiritual happiness. Brahma Sukh. These words are there in Shastra. Brahma Sukh, spiritual happiness. And the opposite is Maya Sukh. Tapo divyam putraka yena sattvam shuddhyed yasmad brahma sokyam tvanantam. Rishabhadev advised his sons to undertake divine austerity for the sake of attaining spiritual happiness, which is eternal and unlimited. On the other hand, we have Maya Sukhaya Bharam udvahato vimudhan. Prahlad Maharaj very compassionately wanted to deliver the fools who take happiness in material pleasure. So, one major step in establishing this, we're distributing books, but we have to demonstrate what's in the books also. Maybe 25, maybe 30 years ago, a devotee in Bangladesh told me that one educated person, which wasn't so common in Bangladesh at the time, a teacher had asked him, should I follow what's in your books or what you do? There shouldn't be a difference. So are we becoming a religious come welfare society, part of this modern demoniac society? It's demoniac, by the way. According to all the descriptions of Shastra, the present civilization that we live in has to be classified as demoniac. So are we going to be part of that? Or are we going to try for something else? You may say, well, we're not ready to establish Varnashram. And next generation, they'll also say, we're not ready. And the next generation will also say, and if there is another generation, if they all haven't become Ravanas with tilak on, then, Ravana also had tilak, by the way. At least in the movie depictions. He's a Brahmana, he wears tilak. All Brahmanas wear tilak. So, we can go on generation after generation ignoring Srila Prabhupada's instructions about establishing Varnashram and think that it's normal to be part of this demoniac civilization, and then devotees marry and they divorce, and grihasthas have children and the children don't become devotees, or they become wishy-washy devotees. And it's just normal. Just normal. In contemporary Vaishnava society. I'm not blaming our grihasthas. It's a great challenge to raise children in present-day society so that they don't become drug addicts, what to speak of trying to be pure devotees. But it seems that most devotees don't seem to click. They don't seem to understand how sick the world is today. Even the karmis can understand. They're beginning to understand through all the fog of their deep illusion that the world today is extremely sick, but they don't have a clue what the solution is. We do. By the grace of Srila Prabhupada, we know that there's an urgent necessity of ourselves being Krishna conscious. It's an urgent necessity. It's not something to be put off. It's an urgent necessity to preach it, and an urgent necessity to show the Krishna conscious alternative, simple living, high thinking, Varnashram dharma. We don't want to be normal. If you want to be normal in Lanka, then you become like Ravana. If we're living in a demoniac society, we should be very much afraid of being normal. We should be very careful within our Vaishnava society. Instead of welcoming and embracing all these demoniac ideas and practices, instead of just absorbing them in the name of preaching, in the name of whatever, we should be very strict to keep out all these horrible things which are anything imported from the Kami society has to be horrible, even if it looks nice. As far as possible in the communities which I oversee, the Varnashram societies, I'm trying to keep out this demoniac society and the ideas of it, and adopt the old traditions as far as possible. Srila Prabhupada did say it's not possible to establish Varnashrama in the old way, but as far as possible we should do. That means we have to be selective, we have to be careful, and we have to be alert, not to let it slip, as it very easily can do. It can very easily slip into just a farm with vegetarians. And some of them might chant Hare Krishna. There's an English saying, nothing ventured, nothing gained. We should try at least. At least we can say, we have to leave this body. At least we can say, we tried. We tried to do something. It may fail, but there's no failure. Neha brikranashasti pratyavayano vidyate swapamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even if we're not able to establish perfect Varnashram society, even if the communities, Krishna, please save us, even if they break down, at least for the time the devotees have been there, they've been chanting Hare Krishna, cultivating Krishna consciousness, there's no loss, there's all gain. Let's try to do the best we can in Srila Prabhupada's service. Even the Kamis understand it in their own perverted way. Mercedes-Benz. How many of you would like to have a Mercedes-Benz car? Maybe many of you never even heard of it, if you're lucky. Maybe many of you aspired to come up to that level of wealth. It's a prestige symbol, status symbol. So their motto is the best or nothing, because their cars are very good from the car point of view. Their cars are very good. So the best or nothing, they say. So in Krishna consciousness, we should try for that also. We've got the best. Why not try for it? Great heroes of the modern society like Steve Jobs, they didn't build their companies by telling their employees to relax. Push them. They don't have human resources officers going around the offices telling everyone, relax. Not at all. They get paid money, no doubt, but not for relaxing. They're expected to come to a high. If you can get a job in Google, Microsoft, Meta, or whatever it is, you're expected to come to a very high standard, even if you're the toilet cleaner. Well, what happens? They may say, well, you're pushing devotees, and then they may get fried, they may go away. Yeah. But what do we learn from Bhagavatam? Tyaktva swadharmam charanam bhujam hare bhajanna pakvo tapatettato yadi yatra kva badra babhudamusha king varto ko varta apto bhajatang swadharmata. If you try giving up all the, actually it says here, Varnashrama. In Vedic society, you have to go beyond Varnashrama to go to Krishna consciousness. Ultimately, one has to go beyond. But conversely, we're trying to establish Varnashrama to make some social sanity as a platform from which people can practice Krishna consciousness. So, adopting the message of this verse to present-day society, if you give up the demoniac society, if you do your best to go beyond this demoniac society, and just try your best to surrender to Krishna, but you don't make it, nothing lost, nothing inauspicious. On the other hand, if you're a perfect kami, and you're successful and you make lots of money, what's the use? It's completely useless. From the Krishna conscious point of view, which means the actual reality point of view. So not everyone will like this. Some respect me for speaking like this, and others hate me for saying it. Let's be frank. I mean, I could use a milder word, but by the actions you can judge. I never imagined that just coming to this Krishna consciousness movement and trying to do what Prabhupada said and try to inspire others to do that would it become respected. Why? Everyone should do it, so why should it be something for being highly respected? I never imagined that within the society of devotees there could be so much distaste. Okay, let's use a milder word. Euphemism. There could be so much distaste from trying to follow what Srila Prabhupada said, and I didn't imagine it would become such a struggle within Vaishnava society. Some say I'm out of sync with reality. Come on, look, the world's like this. You have to adjust to it. But what is reality? Reality means we're eternal servants of Krishna. We're suffering in material existence, birth after birth. We have to take to Krishna consciousness seriously. This is reality. If you don't like all this heaviness and strong words, and you feel strained by saying you have to get up in the morning, you have to take only Krishna prasadam, if you're feeling uncomfortable, good. If you're feeling it's a strain, then your thought processes are being challenged. If you find it difficult, that means you're becoming purified. So this goes against the grain of thinking. If you don't like it, you shouldn't do it. The saying is, if it feels good, do it. The opposite of what is, if you don't like it, don't do it. But people spend most of their life doing things they don't like doing, like working. They say, oh, I'm really happy in my job. Bogus. They're all lying. If anyone says they like their job, they're lying. Because if they weren't paid, they wouldn't do it. Well, some people work overtime without pay, thinking I'll get a pay rise. They'll notice me. But usually what happens is their boss takes all the credit for the work done and he gets a pay rise. And you don't get a pay rise. So people are not happy, and they're working hard to get money so that in the little time they have left over, after all these bosses who tell you that they're very concerned with your welfare, they're concerned with your welfare because you're working for them. They give you just enough time to recover from working so that you can go back to work. So in that little time you get, with the money you have, you can imagine that you're doing what you like. And in the rest of the time, you have to do what the boss wants you to do. So if you don't like it, if it feels, well, actually it's too, take it anyway. Understand what's good for us. And if you don't like it and you don't want to follow it, hopefully at some point Maya will smash you so hard that you might think that I heard someone was saying that material life is miserable and we have to... I remember, at least you heard it. If we don't say it, then people, when they are smashed hard by Maya, which will happen to everyone, they won't have something to latch onto. They'll just say, I didn't eat enough pizza. I didn't eat enough kami pizza. That's why I'm suffering. So they won't understand. They'll become atheists and communists and feminists. You may become grateful and you may wish when Maya hits you so hard, you may wish you'd taken it seriously earlier. Why didn't I accept that at that time? Now I'm getting the fruit of not accepting what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. In my personal experience over many years of speaking strongly, and it's not that I shout and yell at everyone all the time, or even much of the time, but I do try to speak the philosophy as I've heard it, and maybe in a very strong way, but my experience is that speaking like this can radically, I've seen people's lives change for the better, and they're grateful for it, and they're happy that I preach to them to alter their lives. Don't just go along with the flow. Don't be Bifale Shevinu Kripana Duryodhana Chapala Shukala Balagire. Don't dedicate your life for your career and your job and your family happiness, and with a little bit of Krishna consciousness thrown in here and there. But I'm preaching to radically alter your life. Not everyone can do it, but those who are doing it are happy. What should I pray? What is the blessing? Someone comes for a blessing. I bless you that you be squeezed and punched and kicked so hard by Maya that you'll take Krishna consciousness seriously. If that is what is required. Some people learn by hearing. Most of us don't learn only by hearing. Most of us need kicking, punching, squeezing, roasting on hot coals. We need it. I'm going to read from Transcendental Diary a short quote, Harishoi Prabhu quoting Srila Prabhupada speaking. He was talking about Gurukul, and he pointed out a child. This child has to be forced to do something for his own interest. Just like a horse is not prepared to take the medicine, but 4 men forced him to take the medicine. Actually, it had to be 4 very strong men who know how to handle horses to get a horse to take medicine. You have to give it by force. Srila Prabhupada said, nobody was crying for this edition of Bhagavatam. Whoops, also back to front. But we are forcing. You must read it. You must take it. We are printing and forcing everyone. So we're begging, please chant Hare Krishna. We're begging, we're pleading, we're requesting, we're pushing. Somehow bring people to Krishna consciousness. And I think that's the end of the notes I prepared, but I'm not sure. Maybe I missed a page because it's all out of order. And you might find that at the end of life. That, well, I thought I was going back to Godhead, but here I am back in another womb because I didn't do it in the right order. Everything got mixed up. So, if there's a page I missed, then good news. It's time for prasadam. Whew, what a relief. Take prasad and be happy. Minimally, chant Hare Krishna, take prasad and be happy. And if you want to take it a step further, read Srila Prabhupada's books with faith. Shraddha Vanjan Hoy Bhakti Adhikari. Krishna doesn't say someone who has got a lot of feeling in his heart is a candidate for devotion. Someone who has faith, they're a candidate for devotion. So yeah, okay, I'll finish it. And I'm also going to go and take prasad. So Hare Krishna, and Rishikesh Prabhu, he's going to make some media presentation. I'm giving a plug for that. It's about 40 minutes long. Please don't skip it. As far as possible, please don't skip any of the programs. Mukunda Prabhu is speaking. He's going to be speaking tomorrow also, I think. So, if you think I only listen to my guru, he's your guru. He's my guru. I listen to his talks, and I'm very much benefited by them. So, don't think that, well, there's time for Krishna consciousness and time for other things also. This is intensive, so please take advantage. And Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya padita alam pavebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. His Holiness Bhakti Vikasa Swami Maharaj ki. Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj, for delivering a wonderful instructive lecture. Okay, maine kaha ki wo bada badmaas hai, durta hai. You're a rascal. Okay, I mean, I said I'm heavy, so I have to show it, right? But anyway, listen to him, because he's a better rascal than all you rascals. At least he gets you out distributing Prabhupada's books.